And welcome into another edition of the RinkWise Podcast presented by New England Hockey Journal and Seamans Media. I am Evan Marinofsky, and today I'm joined by New England Hockey Journal writer Patrick Donnelly. Pat, what's up?
What's going on? Remote again up here in the North Country.
It looks like you're in like Alaska, you know, you're just so far out there in like a little hut in the cold winter.
Yeah, I'm not all bundled up like I was last time though. So
turn the heat on.
Glad it's a little warmer this time.
Yeah, I agree. So you like skiing's your thing in the winter, right? That's one of your big things.
Yeah, I didn't do it that much in high school just because of like, high school sports and stuff. But now like since college and having my own skis, not having to rent anymore, trying to like get way more into it again. So
that's awesome. Lucky you. It's funny because I recently got into skiing in the last couple of years because hockey and skiing, it's similar, right? The hockey stop. And my friends were like, if you can just build up confidence to hockey stop on the slopes, that's what I did. And I like it. So it's fun now. I didn't ski last winter, but the previous couple I did. So I want to change that this winter. I need to get back out and skiing. So maybe I'll join you at some point. Maybe I'll invite myself to your New Hampshire house to go skiing.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, we are here. It's January. We're recording January 12th. This will probably come out early, still mid-January. First of all, just thoughts on the season. How's it been? This is your first kind of rendezvous in the winter season. How's it been for you with hockey?
It's been busy, but it's the good type of busy, and then just, look, especially when you look at the prep side, maybe I should have expected this going in, but, it's just so many teams are so good this year.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little bit more of an anomaly this year with the parity, but, St. Paul's beats Williston, Westminster ties Williston, and, Nobles has been kind of the wire to wire favorite so far, but everyone else, it's like anybody can beat anybody. And, the competition has just been fantastic. And then, same thing on the MIAA side where, Division I has so many contenders this year. Duxbury is still doing their thing in D2, but there are a lot of teams coming up behind them. So just a lot of great hockey out there so far.
Yeah, I think on the boys' side, it's been the same with prep. I've said it all along. Like last year, Avon and Cushing, I felt were kind of the two that were above everybody else in that top 10, top 8. This year, I feel there's more parity among those top teams. There's more teams that I could feasibly see, okay, a Kent who's a 6 or 7 could go all the way or something like that. And then on the MIAA side, it's the same thing. Where a lot of those, again, last year it was St. John's Prep and Catholic Memorial. Now there's a variant in the mix, and I think Pope Francis is a little bit stronger, and there's a lot of other teams, St. John Shrewsbury, who we'll get into a bit. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that there is parity on the boys' side as well as the girls, and I will say, Pat, last Sunday I went to the Game Sheet Prep Cup up in Exeter, New Hampshire. And I went on Saturday because I'm like, all right, Sunday's going to be the snowstorm. I don't want to be caught in that, especially coming out of New Hampshire, because you and I live in Metro Boston or in Boston. So it's like, for us, we don't get snow typically as bad as, and I'm not a weather expert, but we don't get it as bad as like, different parts of the state, like closer to New Hampshire, things like that. And I walked out of the rink at like 2 p.m. on Saturday to go get lunch, and I saw flurries of snow, and I'm like, no, it's going to hit while I'm here, and I'm going to have to drive home in this. And I did. And it wasn't the best, but thankfully you and I, we grew up here, so we know how to navigate snow on like the Mass Pike, or not the Pike, whatever highway connects New Hampshire to Massachusetts. I'm not good at that stuff, but
yeah, you got 95 and 93.
95, exactly. But yeah, so it's been good so far. It's been fun. A lot of hockey and more hockey this weekend. So
yeah, I unfortunately did not have to deal with the snow getting back because Nobles and Kent girls got canceled.
That's really right. You showed up.
I was disappointed because I showed up, and I was also really excited for that game because both teams are undefeated. And it was like, huge measuring stick for Kent, who's kind of been making the rise up in our rankings. So that was a bummer, but oh well.
Did that get rescheduled?
I haven't seen a rescheduling yet. I'll have to keep checking.
Yeah, because that'll be a good game to follow when that actually happens. But yeah, I feel you on that. Every time I show up to a rink, I'm always like, Yeah, I hope they didn't cancel this game. I hope this didn't get rescheduled or moved. That's like my biggest fear. But anyways, in this episode, we want to touch on boys prep, girls prep, boys MIA, girls MIA. We're going to do one surprise team because it is mid-season, right? I mean, we're getting to the midway point, so we have a clearer vision. The holiday tournaments are behind us. Even the MIA, those holiday tournaments are pretty much behind us. So a surprise team and a team that has sort of lived up to hype, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start with boys prep because I think this is fun. And you were at Cushing Salisbury on Wednesday, so that was a good game. That's all. That's always a top matchup. So why don't we let's start with the team that's lived up to the hype because that's a little more obvious, I guess. I'll go with Kimball Union. Kimball Union entering the year for us was our 4th ranked team. And, you can always say, oh, they should have been 1. But so far, I think they've been the best team in prep. I know some other polls have Avon. And I think Avon has a legitimate case. To me, it's Kimball Union. I think they are Sam LeDrew and Jack Sadowski, to me, are the best 1-2 duo in prep. They remind me a lot of Landon Resendez and Ethan Gardula last year from Cushing. Just every time they're on the ice, they dominate. And Drew is shooting, his stock has skyrocketed in the last month and a half. Sadowski already had a very high stock. Both are Division I commits. But those two together, and then you have guys like Corwith Simmers, who's been outstanding, and you got like CJ Watroba coming over from Pope Francis. He's been strong. Kyle Murray Smith, Malcolm Barr. They have a very deep veteran offense. Deep veteran forward group that Kimball Union has. And then on defense, you get guys like Andrew O'Sullivan, who is maybe the most dynamic offensive defenseman in prep, I might want to say. I mean, he's like him, Calvin Beard, like that's kind of that tier. And then Jack McMinn, who's a phenomenal puck-moving defenseman, a senior as well. And, you have guys like Luke Klarner and, and then in net, Blake McMiniman from Revere, Massachusetts has stepped up and delivered. So I saw them at that Game Sheet Prep Cup against St. Andrews College, which has like Dean Letourneau, who's a potential 1st or 2nd round NHL draft choice this year. And like that team is just stacked full of players, and they beat him 6-5 in overtime. And I can honestly say, and sometimes, Pat, I get a little wrapped up in the moment. Sometimes I'll leave a game and be like, wow, that's one of the best games I've ever seen. It'll be like a 4-3, like Nobles, like narrowly beats Tabor. And I'm like, that was outstanding. That 6-5 OT win might be the best prep game I've seen in my last 2 years. I think I want to say that was as exciting and just good of a game as I've seen. Again, Sadowski, LeDrew were outstanding. So Kimball Union to me has lived up to the hype. I see them as of right now, they're the most complete team in the region because I thought it was Cushing. I thought Cushing was the most complete team, and I think Cushing still is really, really good, but they're not producing at the levels I would have thought they would have offensively, but Kimball Union has. And so to me, KUA is that really good team.
Yeah. I was gonna go in with the Cushing direction, but now I feel like I should cool off on them after,
No, I don't think you should cool off on Cushing because Cushing, Paul Pearl has that team always going.
Yeah.
And I think, like you saw it on Wednesday, Marco Bilic, maybe the all-around all-around goalie in prep. And then you have just a ton, to me, it's almost like they have too many really good guys, right? You saw them on Wednesday. I mean, what did you think of them?
Yeah. So, I mean, going with Cushing might be a little recency bias on my part too. But, just what I saw on Wednesday, especially, Bilic was fantastic. It's a 3-1 score. You wouldn't really think it was a goalie duel, but both him and Cooper Fleming were just sensational in that game. Just some of the saves they were making, it was like, holy cow. That would be on every highlight reel everywhere if these games had broadcasts. They did. Cushing, what struck me most was, the pace they played with. And I think, a big help is a guy with speed like Luke Oakler. And then
fly.
Yeah, just notice him right away. And then, when Salisbury started pretty hot, but, Cushing got to its game, and they do so much in transition. So much of their offense comes in transition. And, when they have guys who can skate like the wind like that up and down the lineup, it makes sense. And, I just think the depth whether it's like Gokler, you get Bronson Hunt, Tanner Hunt, the twins, Bilic and net. Thought Tyler Russo had a good game. So,
Russo's awesome. He's a really good defenseman.
Yeah. And then, even like, you get some depth scoring, whether it's of Phil Obey or who blanking on the name right now, but
I think AJ Sacco is a good guy. Emerson Marshall's leading that team in points. Mm-hmm. And he's a great strong senior. So yeah, to me, like, I agree with you. And they also have like Cole Hiles, who is a guy that is on some NHL draft boards. So and
I really enjoyed Ryland Randall on defense. Kind of undersized a little bit, a lot of offense to his game from the back end, but he's leading the rush, he's quarterbacking one of the power play units. Just the way he sees the ice in the offensive zone. It's just like, when you have that amount of forward talent, you add a guy like Ryland Randall on the back end, it's another option for teams to have to account for.
I agree. And I think that, again, I think Cushing is going to end up being there. Definitely in the Elite Eight. It just comes down to, where they're going to seed. Yep. But I agree. So yeah, I mean, Cushing is one. Kimball Union to me is definitely one. Avon's another team that's lived up to the hype in terms of that. We'll go with a surprising boys prep team. And so we'll probably name a couple teams, but I knew Brunswick was going to be good. Like, I had them, I think, 7th going into the year, but I was like, all right, you lost Drew De La Sala. That, he was incredible. Eli Friedman, you lost 2 of your top scorers. What do what's that going to look like? It's not a sure bet. You lost your starting goalie to graduation, and they have dominated. I mean, they lost their first game of the season to Loomis, and ever since then, they have been outstanding. Up front with guys like Sean Gibbons, Brendan Giles. Those 2 are producing, at a very high level. I mean, they're near the Ledrew Sadowski kind of duo. And then, in the back end, you have Cooper Cleaves, who's, Dartmouth commit, really, really solid defenseman. And Will Baker and net's been outstanding. And so to me, it's not surprising they're good. I'm surprised that they are like my number 2 team in prep hockey right now. I think they're like 14-1-2 overall at the time of recording. Like, they have been outstanding. So I think that would be that's why they're a surprise.
Hey, it's Bobby Moran, Director of Athletics at Thayer Academy. You know what? Experience matters, and Thayer Academy's professional coaching staff understands how to work with each student athlete to help them succeed. Our coaches and faculty are committed to ensuring both 5th to 12th graders feel known, connected, and prepared. This is Thayer's secret sauce, nurturing each student to reach their full potential. Here, success is truly a team sport. Are you ready for your child to take the next step? See what Thayer has to offer at thayer.org. That's THAYER.org.
Do you want to skate fast? For 50 years, Laura Stam instructors have taught youth players to pros how to skate correctly, powerfully, and fast. Players who attend Laura Stam power skating programs learn how to skate fast by learning how to execute every maneuver in hockey. They become powerful, stable, efficient, and explosively fast skaters. If you can't wait for a clinic, join our subscription skills video service, and we'll show you the skills taught at our clinics in an easy-to-use video format with training plans to guide your training. Register or subscribe now at laurastam.com. That's LAURASTAMM.com. You can learn to skate fast.
Prepare for the next level at Cushing Academy. Coach Pearl here, varsity boys hockey coach at Cushing Academy. If you're looking for the complete boarding school experience that combines elite level boys and girls hockey and a huge range of classes, look no further than Cushing. With a program that has produced more than 70 professional and Olympic athletes, there's never been a better time to prepare for the next level with the Penguins. Visit Cushing.org to register for a tour of the Cushing campus today. Roll Pens.
Hi, my name is Chris Santello. I'm the owner and president of Impact Hockey Consulting. After seeing and hearing how poorly hockey players and their parents were being advised with false hope and direction over the years, I decided to start Impact Hockey Consulting with a vision to help hockey players and families through their hockey journey. We do it the right way with an honest assessment and feedback of where they are in their hockey career. At Impact Hockey Consulting, we believe every player should be treated with the utmost respect and honesty to support their needs throughout their path. At IHC, we specialize in advising, mentoring, player development, video analysis, and the proper placement for each player. I welcome all RinkWise listeners to reach out. I'm eager to hear from you and learn more about where you are and want to be in hockey. Please visit our website, impacthockeyconsulting.com, to set up a call today.
Another one that is surprising that they are like in the running for Elite Eight is Loomis Chaffee, led in scoring by maybe the best name in prep, Indiana Grossbard. What a name. Yeah. That is awesome. Like, that is a great name. You got to be good if you're Indiana Grossbard, and he is. And they've been really good. I think, as according to USHR, they're in the Elite Eight right now. Earlier this week, they were a host. They were in the top 4. And then another team I want to show some love to, that's, I guess, a surprise, but now I look at the roster and I'm like, I probably should have seen that. Holderness is undefeated, 10-0. They have a lot of older scoring, like Pavitt Mera from Hopkinton. He's an 04. Caden Wells, Jake Belanger. We're not missing anybody, but like that's a team that is older, scores a lot. The Lakes region is weak, and I think that's going to benefit both Holderness and Kimball Union, but Caden Harrington on the back end, Ryan Nolan in net. To me, that's a team that, again, I knew they were going to be good, but I'm surprised that they are in the top 5. And I think, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Holderness, I think when they play KUA at the end in February, it wouldn't surprise me if they split those games. And we're like, all right, well, where do we put Holderness? Where do we put Kimball Union? But so, yeah, those have been the good surprises. The one negative surprise, and again, they have a lot of time left to turn their season around. And again, I think they're 8-4. So I don't know like how much, I don't think that's horrible, but St. Sebastian's, we had such high expectations for them. They lost 2 last week to Belmont Hill and Nobles. Scoring's been okay, but they've had some trouble finishing. They lost to Brunswick in the Kevin Much tournament final. Like, I think there are some question marks with that team. And to me, like, I'm not writing them off. I know I moved them out of the top 10. They're ranked low in USHR's playoff seedings, which, again, it's an algorithm, so I can't argue with it. But like, to me, they should 100% be in the Elite Eight conversation. The fact that they aren't is, that's on them. That's completely them. So they have the roster to turn around. They have a lot of senior leadership, as we wrote about. They have a lot of talent up front, guys like Ben Merrill and the Mutrin brothers and like Matt Cataldo and Isaac Mitchell. So it's up to them to come out of this, and I think their season's going to be defined by how they respond to this and how they bounce back. And, they were our cover team. We had them number 1. And the fact that they're, kind of out of the mix at the moment is a surprise, so who knows?
Yeah. We were just talking about the Marinofsky jinx. Last year we had Cushing on the cover. This year is Sebs. It might just be the kiss of death.
I'm the cheese touch. We said this. I will say, though, like, Cushing went to the Elite Eight final. They were the best team all year. So I'll give them that, right? Like, Maine, Diver wrote the story. Pat on the back to myself, though. I did choose the topic there. And in college hockey, they've been outstanding. But yeah, there have been some teams I've written about over the since I started doing a hockey journal, and I'll watch them after and I'm like, oh no, I hope I didn't like jinx them. Like, you don't need that. So hopefully it doesn't continue. Hopefully Sebs turns it around for my sake, right? It's all that matters. Just for my own look. I need to look better. So
yeah, I'm in the same boat with some of my preseason top 10 girls teams. Milton and Dexter really haven't had the starts that they probably wanted. They've dropped out of the rankings. But, just to echo sort of what you were saying on the surprises on the boys' side, I would put Sebs right up there. I thought the hype was real after, seeing them at the ISL Keller Showcase, and just hasn't clicked the way we thought it would. And then you stole my other 2 with Loomis and Brunswick. I think Brunswick, when they won the Kevin Much tournament over Sebs, we were like, we knew Brunswick was going to be good, but wow, we that was sort of like the head turning moment, I think, for us. And then I also say worth mentioning is Belmont Hill.
Yes.
Especially with the wins last week over Sebs. Jake McManus is having a great season. So is Jake Tavares, David Bosco, all the guys you sort of highlighted recently. I'd definitely put them in the conversation so far too.
Yeah, and the other thing, Belmont Hill, I have not got out and see them. I've not gotten out and seen them yet. I think, did you see them at the Keller Showcase? I forget.
No, they were at Nobles.
That's right. You did it at separate places.
Yeah.
David Bosco is someone that I've tracked pretty closely, or I've liked a lot since I saw him for the first time when he was on the 14 Eagles. I was like, all right, he's very high IQ center, really talented. I think he's going to be really good. And so he was one of the guys I kept writing about. And I was like, I'm so curious to see what he's like when he gets to prep. Cause there's going to be spots at Belmont Hill. They lost a lot of their top scoring from last year. He's going to have a real chance. And I think that top line of McManus, Bosco, Tavares, and McManus make up the top line, and they've been outstanding. I mean, that maybe is the top line in prep. That's one, definitely top five line for sure. So I agree. Belmont Hill, I said it, Brian Finney at some point, it's going to make us regret not putting them in the preseason top 10. It's a month into the season, or a little more than a month, and he's made us regret it. So kudos to Belmont Hill. I agree with you on that. Okay, girls prep. Let's start with a team that's lived up to the hype for you. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this, but I'm curious to see what you say.
So this is interesting because Nobles has also, lived up to expectations, but also surprised, if that makes sense. We knew they were going to be good. I had them 4th going into the season, but I didn't think they were going to be 9-0-1 at the time of recording good. I've seen them the most of any team so far. It kind of helps just with proximity and, the Harrington tournament. I was going to go see them again to see Kent because, it was just the way it's worked out, I've seen Nobles the most, and I've just been, kind of blown away every time I've seen them, especially we've gone on at length about the forecheck. We don't need to do that anymore. But it's been just so effective. And you look on D, they have 4 just all world defenders back there, whether it's Sophia Levering, Olivia Maffeo, Jamie Griswold, everyone else. And then, up front, the biggest concern was, who was going to score? Because they lost Brooke Manning. They had, Callie Brown and obviously Molly McCurtain had been solid secondary contributors, but could they take that next step? And, Brown has been unbelievable this year. And so is Greta Hulbig, a sophomore. The two of them, they've already either matched or beaten their goal totals from last year. They're going to shatter their point totals from last year. I think they're 2 of the biggest reasons that Nobles has been so effective, especially offensively, because we knew they had the goalie, we knew they had the defense, but those 2 especially have been, key drivers of the offense. And Molly McCartan's obviously been doing her thing. And, all 3 of them sort of embody the style of play Tom Reeser wants out of his forwards, which is, the high motor, high effort, making things miserable on the forecheck for their teams. And it creates so many chances for them, for themselves in the slot, rebounds. They've just been, it's all clicked so far for them. And so, we knew they were going to be good, but not this good. The other lived up to hype so far, I would say Williston. They got punched in the mouth at the Harrington with the loss to St. Paul's and, the tie with Westminster, but came right back. They beat Groton. They smoked Tabor, who's also, I think, lived up to expectations so far. They've kind of hit a little bit of a rocky patch production-wise on offense. It hasn't been coming as easily lately, but, their defense is so good, especially their top pair with Caitlin Sullivan and Adeline Peskowski. So I would highlight those teams. And even, Kent was also a top 5 team, I think we had coming in. They're ranked 3rd right now. So they're right there in the mix too.
To me, if I'm another team, I'm worried about Williston for 2 reasons. Obviously, you have they're really good. I mean, obviously you're gonna be worried about them. They've won the last 2 Elite Eights, but I also look at them like that little rough patch. What a little rough patch at the beginning of the year can do for a team. I was talking on the boys' side, I was talking to Tim Whitehead at the Floodmar, and he said it's almost good we lost to Rivers at the beginning of the year because it kind of refocused everybody. That you got to live up to that. You can't just show up and win. You've got to work to win. And I think for a team like Williston to have that kind of tough showing with those 2 kind of rough games to me, I think goes a long way in terms of their growth as a team and how they're going to continue to progress. And I think with Krista Talbot Saifu at the helm, I think that's a team that obviously is going to be there at the end, but I think that kind of rough patch at the beginning is going to make a huge impact for them down the stretch.
Yeah, especially, there goes the pressure of having to make it 2 undefeated seasons in a row.
Yep.
So now you're probably playing freer, and you lost, and people are, is Williston still Williston? Then you have that motivation. I mean, yeah. We obviously thought they were going to be fine, and they've proved that. But it's just more fuel to fire for them.
And the other thing is, credit to you. You wrote about Tom Reeser's final season, and Nobles has been outstanding so far. Maybe I have the jinx, and you have the magic touch. That might be it. We balance each other out. If I call a team and say, "Hey, I want to write about you," team's like, "No, please do not do that. Please send Pat instead. Let Pat write about us. Do not let Evan write about us."
We'll have to see how, the first team I write about on the cover will come out whenever that happens.
Well, that's true. Yes. And
I haven't had the test of highlighting a team on the cover yet. You're so far 0 for 2, but Sebs could turn into 1 for 2 if they bounce back.
This is true. I'm trying to think if there's any cover. Oh, well, I wrote about Avon, and they were on the cover, and so that they already won, though. That doesn't count. So the preseason predictions. You have a cover coming soon in the next magazine. It's a big one. Do you want to talk about it real quick?
Yeah. We're looking big picture at, the growth of girls hockey in New England. Just, throw some numbers at you quickly. Nationally in the last decade, girls hockey's registration numbers up over 39%. It's up 21% in mass. When you take all of New England together, it's up 14%. So it's really significant spikes. And so, we're talking to people around the region, sort of trying to flesh out what's been driving it here. Especially, it's at the grassroots level. The youngest kids are seeing the biggest spikes. And even if you look at the registration numbers in those young age groups to now when those girls are prep school age and high school and college age, those numbers are continuous, and they're staying, those girls are staying with the game. So really cool story to sort of flesh out and pick people's brains about.
Yeah, it was a great one to read. Obviously, you guys will all read it in the coming weeks when you get the magazine. It'll be on the website, obviously. It's a really good story. It was very well researched, and Pat, you did an outstanding job on it. Okay, so let's move along to surprise teams in girls prep. Who have you looked at as a surprise team or two in girls prep?
So I already highlighted Nobles just for the reasons, good but not this good. But other than that, I would say Loomis Chaffee we had ranked coming into the year, but they had a rocky start. But they've sort of turned things around with upsetting Andover at the Auden tournament. They've won 6 straight. They just beat Berkshire pretty handily. Grace Morin and Chloe Obser are doing their things. And then, for some of the under the radar teams, and, it's probably just oversight on my part for missing them at the beginning of the season. But, Westminster, they weren't ranked coming into the year. They're 8th right now. I would say Deerfield and New Hampton have both kind of jumped in and out of that 10th spot in the rankings. And, New Hampton, probably should have gotten more due. They won the small school tournament last year. But they've been great so far. They had a little bit of a slip up. They lost to Deerfield, so we'll have to see how they respond. And, Deerfield's one to watch because their schedule gets really tough over the last month. So kind of show us what you're made of a little bit. And then Exeter and Choate, I would say, have been great starts. They're kind of in the hunt for the rankings, 7-2-0 and then 7-3-0 respectively. But really Westminster, I've been really impressed. Bella Zapata, the freshman on the top line, she's 11 points in 9 games. And she's pretty undersized too. So for her to be doing what she's been doing as a first line player, her first year in prep, or, as a freshman, really impressive. And, so I would say, Westminster's kind of leading that charge of the under the radar teams.
And didn't they tied Williston at the tournament? Right?
And that could have gone, they also could have beat Williston at the or not Williston, Nobles at the tournament. The first game, it was, 2-2 late, and Nobles scored in the final minute to win the game 3-2. So they took a lot of teams to task in the Harrington tournament, and their goalie, I'm blanking on her name. Let me try and find it quickly, but she's been absolutely fantastic, especially when I saw her at the Harrington tournament. Williston threw everything at them in the third period, and so far didn't seem to matter. So,
yeah. Well, Westminster, it's interesting though, because they weren't, we didn't really have our eyes on them a lot at the beginning of the year. And they have ascended quick. I mean, I think they're like 6-2-1 at the time of recording. And I'm curious to see how they continue to progress. I know you mentioned like Deerfield as well. So yeah, I mean, a lot of like, we have our eyes obviously a lot on, the Andovers and the Willistons and the Nobles, but like a lot of these teams, Groton, Westminster, we had a lot on Groton though at the beginning of the year, I think, with teams East, like we were pretty on Groton, but yeah, Westminster and Deerfield, I think are two really good ones.
Yeah, and Groton, I think, is still very much deserving of sort of their flowers that we've been giving them. They've held up pretty well so far. But New Hampton did beat them in the small school tournament last year, and so that I feel like New Hampton should have gotten more of its flowers too. But so the Westminster goalie's named Julia Matias.
There we go.
Fantastic. And just especially when I saw them against Nobles, against Lawrence Academy, and against Williston, and just sensational against Williston.
So that's, it's good. I think that, again, it goes back to the parity on the girls prep side, that it's been strong, that there've been a lot of good teams. It has not been, one being way better than everybody else. I think it's, I don't think there's a clear Elite Eight favorite right now. I mean, I think there is, probably like Nobles, but Nobles, I don't think is above everybody else considerably, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, Nobles, I think is, pretty safe, and we can call them the favorite right now. But, I'd say there's 10 to 12 teams that could all be in and out of the race over the next month. And I would also mention Andover, who they haven't played a ton of games. Like, we talked about them getting that late start at the beginning of the year, which was kind of annoying because, we wanted to see them play. But they just lost to Choate. They lost to Loomis at the Harrington tournament. The Averill sisters and Molly Boyle are off at the U18 Women's Worlds right now. Mm-hmm. So it's really kind of up to the depth on that team to get them through this. If everything started today, they'd be 8th in the Elite Eight. They're 5-2-1. But just some of the losses, they lost 2 in a row, like we said, Loomis and Choate. And so sort of a little bit of like Williston, like how will they bounce back? They've won 2 in a row since. So it looks like they're on the right track, but just something to watch.
Are you ready to elevate your game and education? The New Hampshire Mountain Kings program is a new and unique hockey experience located in central New Hampshire. The ownership group operates the newly renovated Tri-Town Ice Arena in Hooksett, New Hampshire. The arena is the home of the North American Hockey League New Hampshire Mountain Kings as they compete in their inaugural season. The New Hampshire Mountain Kings Academy and Mountain Cat Academy were created with a desire to enhance the typical hockey academy experience for both male and female participants. In 2024, the Mountain King Academy will have teams competing at the U14, U15, U16, and 18 levels, while the Mountain Cats will compete at the U19 level. The students will attend school in person at Bishop Brady High School and stay in secure dormitories with meal plans at NHTI and Concord, New Hampshire. For information on how to become a Mountain King, contact them today at info@nhmountainkings.com. Again, that's info@nhmountainkings.com.
Do you want to become a better hockey player this summer with Paul Vincent Hockey? Since 1972, Paul Vincent, currently the head skills instructor of the Florida Panthers, has been developing NHL and college hockey players. Paul Vincent stands by his saying, there's always room for player development. Players such as Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Keith Yandel, Matt Grzelcyk, Patrick Sharp, Adam Oates, and many more have trained with Coach Vincent and his staff and have outstanding results. Join Paul Vincent this summer at one of his 4 Massachusetts locations, Canton, Saugus, Middleton, and Falmouth on Cape Cod. To reserve your spot today, go to pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. That's pvhockey.com or call 978-807-4070. Paul Vincent is ready to get back to work this summer. Are you?
For over 20 years, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey has been helping hockey players of all ages develop their individual skills and improve on all aspects of their game. Through structured drills and innovative training equipment, Eric Nate's Euro Hockey's intense on-ice instruction challenges each student to be the best at their ability. Find a hockey clinic or summer camp that is right for you today at nateshockey.com. That's NATES hockey.com. Eric Nates Euro Hockey, train to be the best.
Prepare for the next level at Cushing Academy. Coach Pearl here, varsity boys hockey coach at Cushing Academy. If you're looking for the complete boarding school experience that combines elite level boys and girls hockey and a huge range of classes, look no further than Cushing. With a program that has produced more than 70 professional and Olympic athletes, there's never been a better time to prepare for the next level with the Penguins. Visit Cushing.org to register for a tour of the Cushing campus today. Roll Pens.
And now we want to kind of transition over to the MIAA. We'll start with boys MIAA in terms of a team that's lived up to the hype. St. John's Prep, we had preseason, I forget where we had them. I think they were 2. We had them at number 2. And they went down to number 4, though, recently. They'd had some little minor hiccups. But actually, I think they only lost 1 game. What am I talking about? And I'm thinking of Pope Francis's Catholic Memorial, who've had a bunch of hiccups. St. John's Prep, though, to me, has lived up to the hype in terms of we knew they were going to be really good, and they're still really good, and they've lived up to it. And I went out on Wednesday night to Canton, beautiful Canton Ice House, to watch them play Xaverian, because to me, those in my last rankings were my top 2 boys teams, and St. John's Prep was the better team for the entire game. And there was a road win. It was a gutsy performance by them. They were more physical. They controlled the play for the majority of the game. The Xaverian student section was huge, and they sort of quieted it. And so to me, SJP is a team that has definitely lived up to the hype in terms of we expected them to be good, and they are good. And they lost a fair amount from last year's team, but Christian Hansen, the head coach there, has, AJ Faris, a new starting goalie. He's a junior. He looked really solid on Wednesday night. And they have a lot of senior guys like Jake Vanna, who's committed to Princeton for lacrosse. But honestly, like, he's such a good athlete. He could probably commit for I think he plays soccer too. I haven't seen him play soccer, but I'm going to trust that he's still a really good soccer player. Christian Rosa, Johnny Ty, like, they have a lot of seniors. To me, they have some really strong young talent too. Like Ethan Goodrich is a good example of that. So to me, like, they're a team that is always in it. St. John's Prep, I mean, even when I was in the MIAA, like, St. John's Prep was always one of the favorites, so that hasn't changed. They've lived up to the hype even after they lost some talent. So I'll give one shout out to SJP, and the other I'll say to Xaverian. I know Xaverian lost that game, but Xaverian has been really strong. To me, they're the best top to bottom lineup, mainly because I think Cole, Pouliot, Porter, and Net just gives you such an advantage, especially come tournament time. But they had that, again, the one loss to St. John's Prep, and they lost to BC High as well, 3-2. But they're deep up front. They have a good blend of seniors, juniors, and they have a sophomore, Jack Fitzpatrick, who's like 6'4", can move well. They're good on D. Obviously, they have Pouliot, Porter, and Net. So to me, those are the 2 teams. I would put those 2 teams right now as the favorites, but there is one surprise team we'll get to in a second. That I think is now moving into that tier with Xaverian and SJP, but SJP, those 2 teams, we knew were going to be good going into the season, and they have been good.
Yeah, I was going to echo Xaverian, especially, the goalie Cole, Pouliot, Porter. I feel like every year in the MIA, we like the tournament comes down so much to the goalie.
Yep.
Especially, as an MC guy, I'm reluctant to give the Prep their flowers. But you love
ranking the Malden Catholic girls as high as possible, don't you?
They've been great this year. I dropped them this week. I'm not playing too many favorites.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But no, like, the goalie is just such an X factor. Just every year, if you don't have the goalie, and usually when we see these teams in the finals or they make a deep run out of nowhere, it's usually on the back of a hot goalie. So that's the biggest difference maker, I think, for Xaverian. And you still have Jack Fitzpatrick, you still have Colvin Callahan, all guys we sort of highlighted plenty. And Xaverian, we knew they were going to be good. I think you had them top 3 going into the year, and here they are 1. So not overly surprising, I would say.
Yeah, I think Zavarian I had 3. I think it was Pope Francis, SJP, and Zavarian. Because to me, like Zavarian is, going into the year, I thought they were maybe the best roster. Pope Francis is up there too in terms of just how good that roster is. They had Pope Francis had a rough loss against CM that I was at on Monday night at Warrior. I don't want to dox myself, but I do live in the area of Warrior Ice Arena. Please don't come up. Please do not show up to my house. But I do live in the area of it. And so whenever like CM plays a big game, I'm like, oh my God, this is a layup. I could freaking jog there or walk. I still drive. But I'm still lazy. I still drive. But they lost 8-3, and Pope Francis lost to CM 8-3. CM needed a win like that badly. CM was on a pretty long, I think it was like a 5-game winless streak, which for them is a long time. They lost a lot. They lost, Tyler Hamilton and Joe Markey to Dexter, a couple of years early than their senior year. So they've sort of been figuring out how to generate offense, and they have some. I mean, Connor Freiberger's outstanding, Nick D'Olimpo, and then on the Pope side, on D, Jake Terrell, Zach Buffoni, and then up front you got a guy like Mossy Kearney. So and in net Nick Ritchie, but I think both those teams have struggled a little bit at times. They're going to be there as high seeds in the tournament, though, and I think ultimately they're going to be. Like Zavarian was last year. Zavarian was struggling for a long time at the beginning of the season. I think Pope and CM are kind of going through some ups and downs that are going to help them, kind of like Williston on the girls' side, except Williston's were like a loss and a tie, and it's like, whoa, I can't believe it. Whereas these are a little longer, but I think it'll help them come tournament time.
Yeah, definitely.
So a surprise team for boys MIAA, to me, the obvious one is St. John Shrewsbury. I don't think it's a surprise to them. They were a team that we had ranked 10th coming into the year. They were under 500 in the last season. But again, Catholic Conference, like it's a tough schedule. Like if you're not one of those top teams, you're not going to have a good season on paper, but you'll be battle tested for the tournament. They are, I think they're 9-1 right now. They have been, Luke Girardi has been exploding for goals. I think he had 4 goals and a win over CM, which is crazy. Daniel Minyalkin's been outstanding. Chase Warsofsky is a freshman. He's an 09. I watched a lot of him with his junior Eagles team, that same one that like Carter Meyer and Finn Sears and Sam Pandolfo, the Rivers kids, were on. And Chase has adapted really well to the MIAA. He's been outstanding. So they're scoring at will, which typically in the MIAA, I've noticed, typically the really good teams just kind of edge, they'll 3-2, 2-1. St. John Shrewsbury is really pouring it on some of these teams. So I am curious to see how this continues for them. But they would be my surprise team in terms of they've moved into that, like, I would say it's the top 3 are St. John's Prep, Zavarian, and St. John Shrewsbury as of recording this on January 12th. There's a Catholic Conference showcase on Sunday. Who knows what'll happen there? But to me, I think the surprise team is definitely St. John Shrewsbury. I wish I could say it was Framingham, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say St. John Shrewsbury for all the same reasons, and I would also put Arlington in that category for sort of same exact reasons. Looking at your preseason rankings, they were 9. Here they are at number 4, and pretty big results over BC High and Winchester, and even the losses and maybe things that turn into wins. Tie with CM, lost to Pope Francis, only 1-0, and to do that as a really young team in the MIA, where we talk about so much, whether it's high school or prep, how much experience matters and how much depth matters, how much having seniors and juniors who are battle tested matters. Hasn't mattered for Arlington so far. No. I would highlight Evan Jones on defense. Kind of a younger guy and stood out with the junior Eagles. He's awesome, and for him to be doing what he's doing at the MIA level, I think isn't very surprising. Moves the puck well, plays well in his own end, kind of do it all type of player. So I think Arlington is kind of right up there too.
Yeah, it's funny. Sean Missouri, the legendary head coach of the Spy Ponders, always preseason's like, we're not going to be good. We're not deep. We're not going to be good. Don't rank us high. And then they come out and they're good every year. And I'm always come on, like So yeah, I actually in the magazine we have those midseason reports, which is kind of what this podcast is based off of loosely. And one of the teams I have as sort of lived up to expectations a bit, I have Arlington, because I think I agree they're sort of both a surprise team and a team that has been good that we expected, because Arlington's there every year. Like Arlington is a public school powerhouse. Missouri always has them well positioned. They can be as young or inexperienced as they even are this year, and they still find ways to win. So I would put Arlington in there. For sure.
Pretty sure, my junior year at MC, they were coming off winning the Elite Eight against the Prep after they lost my freshman year, and I'm pretty sure my junior year Arlington beat them in the semis at Tsonga Center. If I'm remembering correctly, because I just remember the student section being like, "What's a Spy Ponder?" But I'm pretty sure Arlington won that game, and I was like, "Oh wow, Arlington's legit."
What is a Spy
Ponder? I was
Ponder?
15 at the time, so who even cares? But
you were too busy screaming your head off that you couldn't make it up. The student sections,
all of us JV heroes, trying to support.
Exactly. No, you had a place. It's funny though, like the difference when you go from, and you see this going from a prep game to an MIAA game. The student sections at MIAA games are just so outstanding.
Yep.
Pretty much at any game you go to, there's a really strong student section. So, interesting stuff. I don't think I have any other boys MIAA thoughts that I'm really wanting to get off my chest. I think we kind of covered it. So girls MIAA, what's been a team that has lived up to the hype?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no question it's Duxbury. They've just been absolutely fantastic. There's no other way to put it. It's a plus 35 goal differential, 42-7 in 9 games, which is just nuts.
That's incredible. We just published your rankings Thursday night. I actually have to tweet these out soon. But that's incredible.
Yeah. So and we knew Dan and Jarian would have them in top shape, especially coming off a title last year. Anna McGinty's still doing her thing in goal. She was fantastic last year. She's been fantastic again. 4 shutouts on the season already. If I'm remembering correctly. And Maddie Greenwood was someone who had a big breakout season last year with 28 points, and this year she's over a goal per game, she's just a dominant player, and they've gotten the depth too. Reese Porter, Shea Martin, Maeve Gallagher, everything's sort of coming. I shouldn't say coming together, because it already came together for them, but it's just continuing for Duxbury. And in Division II, you have some contenders like Burlington, Falmouth, who I'll kind of get to in a second with the surprises. But there are some other contenders in Division II, but right now it's nobody can hold a candle to Duxbury.
Yeah, they seem to be above it all with Division II. I think we've talked a lot about parity. To me, Duxbury is the clear favorite in Division II.
Yep.
And then in Division I, I think it says a lot about St. Mary's that we have a story coming in the magazine about this, about how they lost Jenna Champlain. They lost a lot off last year's team, and they haven't missed a beat at all.
Yeah. I was kind of getting into St. Mary's for one of my surprises, because they lost.
I just took it from you. You can explain it better than I can.
Sorry, maybe I cut you off there with the.
No, I took your thing. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, it's all right. They lost. I think 13 players from last year's team. 12 maybe. They lost a ton of players. I think it was 8 seniors. And they had Casey Litwin coming back doing her thing on defense. But the biggest things have been the youngsters, all the freshmen and sophomores and even 8th graders that are contributing. We highlighted Vanessa Hall coming into the year as an 8th grader, and a couple times I've seen her, and even just checking box scores, she's been fantastic as an 8th grade defender. And just when you watch her play doesn't look like an 8th grader. She's jumping into the play, unafraid to make things happen. And I would put freshman, I think she's been the top line center, Bella Freitas, right up there too. Just absolutely dominant forces. They've been producing. They're always making moves to the slot, creating grade A chances, no matter what situation it is, shorthanded, power play, even strength. So I would put St. Mary's. We knew they were going to be good. We didn't know if there'd be some bumps along the way with just how many players they lost, but they're first in our rankings. They're 7-0-1 right now. It's pretty remarkable just how seamlessly a lot of these younger players have stepped right in.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're a surprise team for sure, but then there's also the part it's like, oh, it's St. Mary's. They fall into the category of like Arlington on the boys' side, and some of the other teams we highlighted earlier, where the Nobles even on the girls, like they're both, they're going to be good, but there is like, oh, the roster is a little thinner or younger than it was last year. So that is that. Do you have any other surprise teams? I know St. Mary's kind of falls in that, but are there any others?
So I would put MC up there. They had a solid run last year what'd you say?
I said, got to rep it,
I know. Yeah. They had a solid run last year. I think they made the Elite Eight, and lost to Duxbury, if I'm remembering the bracket correctly. But we didn't have them ranked entering the season. And they've come right out. They've beat some Division I contenders like Bishop Feion, Peabody, Linfield, North Reading, Pope Francis. So they've had a really good start. They actually lost for the first time this season to Notre Dame Hingham, who's a team I think has met expectations, even though maybe the offense hasn't quite been as high flying as it might have been in past years. They've been really good defensively. But I would also highlight Falmouth in Division II, 7-1-0 right now. And they're another one like Duxbury, where they've kind of got a crazy differential. I think they got 49 goals in the season, which is the most in Division II and second most in all of MIAA girls hockey. But the thing about them is they only have 17 players on the roster, and 10 of them are freshmen, and they only have one goalie. And so for all sort of like St. Mary's, for all these freshmen to step in and do what they've done, and Aspen Devlin as the only goalie on the team right now, not getting any breaks, I think is really cool to see.
Yeah, I've been impressed with that, and I'm also curious to see what ends up happening with the MIAA girls side as the season continues. So we kind of hit on the surprise teams, the good teams. We really covered it all. That's the point of these podcasts, Pat, is that we try to go around, boys prep, girls MIAA, boys MIAA, and try to give, try to talk about a lot of the big storylines, because it is always changing. I mean, there are games multiple per week. There's tons this weekend. I'll be at a couple. So I'm interested to see what happens there. All right, Pat. So that's this edition of RinkWise. We talked about the next cover, which is yours, going to be all about the growth of girls hockey, both here and around the country. Is there anything else that you have in the works or that you're doing that you kind of want to make people privy to?
No, I just kind of highlight the rest of the stuff that's going in the magazine. Belle Frazier and Jake Hamilton got some stories coming on Mia Daly at Williston, who's been a really fantastic freshman on their top line. And we got a feature on Cammie Bell, who's been just dominant for St. Paul's the last several years and is having a terrific senior season. So I highlight those stories, keep an eye on for. And even just, these mid-season check-ins that we got going, get a little, take the temperature of all, girls prep, girls MIAA, boys prep, boys MIAA.
Finger on the pulse. That's what that is. Yeah. And the magazine, what else we got? We got a story on Kent from Josh Cummins, the boys, Kent's boys team. They've been really good. I have one coming on the Rivers 8th graders, like Carter Meyer and Finn Sears, and those kids have been dominant. Sam Pandolfo and Eben Alden as well. And then I have a profile on James Hagens, which is going to be exciting. Again, he's not technically from here, but he played at Mount for 2 years, so we're gonna count it.
One of ours.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of ours. We'll say it. That'll be also on the cover of New York Hockey Journal. So hopefully the jinx doesn't continue there. Hopefully New York Hockey Journal, the jinx doesn't exist. But yeah, so very excited with that. And then obviously you and I, Pat, we have rankings every week. We have top prep, for boys, top prep performers. We've got a lot of different stuff, obviously. If you guys follow along, all the stuff we put out. So we'll continue to do that. Lots more hockey to watch, though, that's for sure. That's Patrick Donnelly. I'm Evan Marinofsky. The RinkWise Podcast is a Seamans Media production produced by the great David Yaz. I am Evan Marinofsky, and you RinkWise listeners have a great rest of your week.